I am the Witch of Jasmine and welcome back to my channel. Oh god, look what we got. We got a Cancer moon reading. If you're new to my channel, I'm a Cancer moon. I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm nervous for this one. Okay, first of all, I say with all of my readings that technically pertain to me as well, that I promise to keep my biases out of this. This is a general reading for all of us, not just about anyone in particular. But I'll tell you why I'm nervous. No, I don't want to make you nervous, but I did a reading for myself last night, and I don't actually, when I do readings for myself, I very rarely do readings in this style that I do on YouTube. Not for any particular reason, just that I just do them usually in a more personal way. But last night I was like, oh, why don't I do a reading? Why don't I do a reading like this? And I flipped the cards over. I took one look at them and I was like, nope. No, this is not what I wanted to hear. I don't like this. And I almost just put it away and said, screw it. But then I was like, you know what? What do I always say in so many of my readings? Is that tarot does not tell you what you want to hear. A lot of times it's stuff that you need to hear, you know? So what's the point of getting a tarot reading if it's just fluff, you know? Bonus card. Nice. So anyway, not that it was a bad reading, it's just not what I wanted to hear. So then I looked at my schedule today for which videos I had to film, and I was like, oh, wow, that's right. We're doing a Cancer moon reading today. So anyway, all of that to say, I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited. Okay, anyway, as I'm shuffling out these cards, which I'm almost done with, I invite you to take some deep breaths. Oh, whoa. Okay, hold on. There we go. Shoot, some of them flipped over. Hold on. Okay, it's kind of useless at this point, but I'll say it anyway. Take some deep breaths. Center yourself. Ground yourself. Oh, all right. We got 2 bonus cards. That's funny. That happened the other day too. 2 bonus cards. All right. We'll flip those over later. But for now, let's dive into this. Cancer moons, are you ready? Our oracle card is blessed. Oh, oops. Very nice. Okay, for our tarot cards, we've got Knight of Wands reversed, the Star reversed, the Fool, 8 of Cups, King of Wands, 9 of Wands reversed. And then I will flip these over, like I said, whenever, at some point when I feel like it's time to flip them over. Side note, before we get into all of this, if you haven't noticed, I've been posting a lot of YouTube shorts on here, where basically each video just talks about each of the cards in depth. So I have a bunch of them out. I still have so many more to put out, but as far as in this reading, I have one about the Fool. It was the first one I put out because it's the beginning of the Major Arcana. So I just want to say, if you are feeling particularly drawn to that card, or if you want to learn more about it, I highly recommend you go take a look at that. Oh, and the Star too. That one I don't think it's out yet, but it will be out in a couple days. Very soon. So, and plus there's a bunch of other ones. So I highly recommend you go take a look at those. Anyway, so starting off with Eight of Cups below this Knight of Wands reversed. So Knight of Wands is somebody who is very fiery. Actually, we have a lot of Wands energy in here now that I'm looking. Very ambitious, very fiery, it's associated with fire energy. Someone who's very hardworking like that. So having it reversed is the opposite of that. It's someone who is lacking that fire and that passion, the creativity, the ambition, all of that. Or it could kind of be the opposite of that, where instead of lacking that stuff, it's like you have that energy, but you're not really focusing it in the way that you should. I usually compare this card to like a wildfire, where, like a controlled fire, a controlled burn can be very useful and helpful. But when it gets out of hand, it gets out of hand, and it can be very destructive. So the Eight of Cups below that, that's about moving on. That tends to have a pretty sad feeling to it. Maybe even like a reluctant feel to it. It is upright, so that means that whatever you're moving on from, like, you are moving on from it. You are taking the steps to do that, and that's really good. So I just think with this Knight of Wands, I think it's just showing that as you're moving into this next cycle, this next chapter, this whatever, moving away from this and on to the next thing. Oh, and I should mention too, I always forget to mention this. This reading, I believe, is chronological, meaning it's this, then this, then this, and then this. So keep that in mind. So anyway, I think with that Knight of Wands, as you're moving, so that also means that everyone's going to be in a different place in this timeline. So just kind of put yourself wherever you're at, because again, this is a general reading. With this Knight of Wands reversed, I think it's just kind of showing that during this time of moving on from whatever it is, I think it's just kind of also giving you this energy of like struggling to really get on track. You're kind of moving along on this horse because you got to move forward, but you're also kind of feeling upside down. You're not quite going in the direction you want to be going in. Maybe you're going in the wrong direction, or the horse is going way too fast and you can't even like really see what's happening. Something like that. So moving on, we have King of Wands below the Star reversed. So the Star, again, I think that's going to be connected to this, whatever you're moving on from. The Star comes up after those times when, you're going after something kind of life-changing or something like that. It's like the dust settling after something big happens. And when it's reversed, it's kind of this like lack of optimism, this hopelessness. You're just kind of looking at this situation and being like, well, now what? Like maybe there's a part of you that knows that you just need to pick up the pieces and build something back, get your footing again. But it's mostly the Star reverse. It's mostly about just being like, I just don't know if I have the strength to do that. I just don't know how. However, we do have King of Wands below that. So I think that means that although there's definitely a part of you that just feels like, I don't know. I just don't know how to move on. I just don't know what my next step is. I don't think I can really recover from this. I think although there's a part of you that's feeling that way, I think there is some deeper part of you. Again, with the shadow cards, they represent the, shadow part of you, the inner part of you. I think there is this part of you that is very much ready to figure it out, to fight, King of Wands is somebody who is a leader, again, with that fiery energy, right? King of Wands is somebody who would go to the star reversed and give them that pep talk and be like, hey, yes, you can do it. Let's figure out a plan and get this going. He's all about talking about the big picture, right? He can recognize that how you're feeling right now, how the star reverse is feeling right now is temporary. And he's all about inspiring others. So I think there's kind of, of course, this might be referring to a literal person in your life who can give you that kind of support. But because it's a shadow card, I don't know, I just feel like that's what you have to do, is find that King of Wands in you. You know, even if it's just a small part of you, really lean into that, because that's how we're going to be able to move forward. So moving on here, we've got the Fool above the Nine of Wands reversed. So I think after moving on from this, when you're finally like picking yourself back up and saying, all right, well, I know what I'm going to do. I know what my next step is. Let's go. The Fool is, you know, someone who has that optimism. That optimism will come back. You know, maybe even like an excitement or like an adventurous energy. He's also, it's very much like stepping out into the unknown, kind of being like, okay, I have this goal and I'm gonna go achieve this goal. Okay, bye, I'm gonna go do it. It's like, okay, I'm so excited for you. That's great. But let's like prepare a little bit. Let's make sure we know what we're getting ourselves into. Like, keep up that spirit. That's great. But like, let's take this one step at a time, you know? And I especially say that because of this Nine of Wands reversed. You know, with each suit of tarot, it goes from Ace to 10. Ace being the beginning of something, 10 being the end. So 9 is very close to that end, right? But having that reversed, it's very much burnout. It's like being very close to an end or a milestone or the end of a chapter, and just being like, I don't know if I can do it, you know? Which, of course, when you're looking at something objectively, you can be like, hey, well, you're almost there. Just finish it out. But it's being like, you know, in that position of like, God, I'm so exhausted. I don't know if I can really, you know, push through this last bit. And you might even be kind of second guessing yourself, you know, now that you're really close to that thing, being like, you know, now that it feels real, you're like, well, wait, do I really want this? Is this really what I thought it was? And that doesn't necessarily mean it's not something you want. It's just that second guessing. So having these two together, what does that mean? When you are, you know, moving on, you know, here in this Nine of Wands, getting close to what it is that you want. And again, I can't say necessarily like the end goal, but at least just like a milestone or something like that. I think it would help you to kind of access this Fool energy a little bit. Again, not too much, because the Fool can also be kind of just reckless and unprepared. But trying to keep that excitement, thinking back to how did you feel in the beginning? How did you feel when you thought of this idea? Like really trying to tap into that like excitedness from the beginning, you know, in order to push through to get to that next part or that end part. Man, this reading is absolutely very full. But we've got 2 more cards. Let's take a look at what they are. We have 6 of Swords and more Wands. Page of Wands reversed. Okay. It's funny to have Page of Wands and the Fool together. I always think it's interesting because those cards are just so similar. I want you to kind of separate these two in your mind. Let me shift this all over. Okay, so I want you to think of this all as the chronological part of the reading, and then this is a separate little thing, okay? This is what you can take away from this right now. Again, everyone's going to be in a different place for this timeline, but here, right here, it's about what can you take away right now? What can you think about for the rest of the day? And that's 2 things. The 6 of Swords, which is kind of a callback to this. 6 of Swords is about transitioning, moving on. It actually can kind of symbolize like a very literal moving, being in a new environment, but regardless, just moving on to the next thing, kind of sailing on like this person is. And then also that Page of Wands reversed, like I said, that's similar to the Fool, those negative aspects of the Fool, of, just being careful that while you're moving on, while you're moving through all of this to get to your goal, be cautious. Don't be reckless. Be prepared, be realistic, and stay focused as you keep sailing through this little timeline. And then finally, yes, we have this blessed card here, which is, it's what it looks like. It's about good things coming into your life. But all I'm going to say on that is the phrase that popped into my head when I was turning this all over is, let the blessings happen. Just let the blessings come in. They're going to be unexpected. Don't try to control it. Don't try to, just let it happen. Let the results happen. Let the rewards happen. They're going to happen on their own timeline. Don't get too in your head about it. Don't get too paranoid about it. Okay, Cancer Moons, I had to take a nap after this one. This was a lot to get through, and hopefully this video doesn't end up being too long. It was all important. This was super, super jam-packed. But I hope it gave you some direction. If you have any questions about this, or if you'd like any part of this clarified, please let me know. You can leave a comment, or you can just reach out to me, whichever you prefer. The best place to reach out to me is on my TikTok at The Witch of Jasmine. However, I did very recently open up an Instagram account, so if you'd like to reach out to me on there, you're more than welcome to. But I really hope this gave you some clarity. I also want to say real fast too, I know our last Cancer Moon reading was about roughly, I don't totally remember, but it was roughly about achieving goals and stuff. And there was a good part of it that was about actionable, taking next steps, what kind of mindset to have. But there was also a good bit about just the more spiritual manifesting kind of stuff. So I actually, and I promise I don't say this with all my readings, but I would actually recommend that you go back and look at our last Cancer Moon reading for June. It might also give you some perspective. I'm feeling like these two are pretty connected. So anyway, I'm doing my outro. Okay. I'm wishing you a lot of luck. I will see you again next month, and I hope we're all doing better at that point. Maybe it'll be a little more peaceful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye!